You have to forgive me, I wasn't able to print this out, so to get through. He gazed upon the shelves loaded with records and the hooks upon which the food tools hung. He grabbed a deer bone digging stick and a large bison scabbard scoop. Finally, he unhooked a strong, sturdy basket woven tightly from flowers, reeds, and other water plants. Its design was sturdy and practical. Not a work of art, but an object of beauty in its function and form. It always pleased him when he looked at it. It had been a gift from a woman long ago. She was not unlike the basket she had woven. She radiated true beauty, love, and warmth. Many men had been attracted to her because these things often manifest themselves to unknowing eyes as physical beauty and sexual desire. In truth, he had vetted more attractive women, but he had never known anyone as beautiful as she was. She had passed during the season of grain collecting several years, full coming of leaves after he built this house. Even after he had released her spirit to the camps of the forebearers, to sit at the fires in the sky, he often felt her presence alongside him. When he walked, he often felt her sweet breath against his cheek, and often heard her soft voice whisper through the trees. He knew her presence would always be alongside him, and he was grateful. Having no children to keep her alive in his soul, she had chosen to visit often, so that he would not forget her, or worse yet, become bitter as he grew old. Her voice still laughed and sang deeply within him, and he was grateful for this gift. So with her voice in his heart and her presence at his side, he slung the basket over his shoulder and left his home. He tread down the deer trail through the marshes to the pit where he found the white clay he used for his pottery. He had always treasured this source of clay. It was a very hard consistency, difficult to harvest, but when wetted, cleaned, and sluiced, it was easy to work with. It was pliable, elastic in his fingers. It fell well under his paddles, and when it was again leather dry, he was able to incise the detailed geometric patterns the spirits laid out for him. Most importantly, when the spirits of fire breathed upon it, it did not crumble, nor did it crack. It held up to the searing presence of flame and grew stronger from it. When he arrived at his pit, the full glory of the day was upon him. He had encountered no one on his trip, save a startled fawn. He never withheld the location of this sight from the others. In truth, the day it had been given to him, he went running and jumping and rejoicing back to the village. He was as jubilant as a hunter home from a successful hunt. Of course, no one else but she rejoiced in the gift the mother had bestowed upon him. Lowering his basket to the ground, he removed his digging tools. Lying prostrate on the cool white earth, he offered his thanks to the above beings for revealing this sight to him. He asked the mother's forgiveness for taking from her what he knew he could never return. Food and water he had taken would ultimately be returned to her through his flesh and bones when she reclaimed him. Even the trees he used for firewood would return to her when their ashes cooled. The soul and spirit of each log would ascend to the Father Sky in white wisps and billows smoke after being released by fire, an incensed offering. But she would claim the earthy portion, taking the ashes to enrich herself. This physical exchange, he knew, represented a spiritual renewal. He always marveled at the thought of the spiritual realm living within a corporal being. He was grateful for the dichotomy, very grateful. For the above beings had provided pleasure immense for the physical world. After all, could a spirit smell the scent after a spring rain? Taste the bounty of mother's fruit? Or feel the caress of a woman's lips? Perhaps this is why the above beings had placed souls within corporal vessels. The giving of love and self could be draining, and the soul needs to be fed. The senses return energy to the soul. Without this exchange, a renewal surely, and without this exchange and renewal, surely the spirit would die. Of course, the above beings had also ensured that physical realm would have its trials too. Hunger, cold, and aging all demonstrated the limits of the flesh. But these limits also served a great purpose. He truly believed these limits were placed upon the flesh to remind creation that the energy for life and living was spiritual. These limitations humbled flesh and ultimately exalting the soul. He arose from the earth. The dust from the white clay clung to him. White with earth, he grabbed his bone stave, scoop, and basket. He began to descend into the shallow pit. When he reached the bottom of the terraced hole, he began to gently break apart the scab of dried clay. When the soft flesh of clay was revealed, he smiled, as if seeing a long-lost friend. Gently probing with his fingers, he withdrew a handful and squeezed it around his fingers. The clay was always heavier after a rain, so he was grateful it had been dry this past week. After all, he would need to dry the clay to clean and sift it away. Only the finest powder from the multi-phase sifting process would be collected, then wet with water in order to work it. Gently and reverently, he placed this handful aside and offered a prayer of thanksgiving. He again resumed with his bone stave, perforating the clay about 1 hand span deep, by 1 hand span wide, and 2 hand spans long. Then with a scapular scoop, he pried the back from the earth and gently placed it in his basket. He repeated the perforating and scooping 4 more times, almost filling his basket. Reaching above him, he claimed the handful of earth he had placed on the terrace earlier. He spat into the clay several times and began to work and knead it. With the bone stave, he pricked his finger and mixed his blood with the flesh of the mother. Offering a prayer of thanksgiving for his harvest, he gently worked the clay back over the wound he had created within her. He always applied the salve over the fresh cuts he had inflicted. The mother had honored him with a part of herself, and he would offer back a part of himself in the salve he dressed her wound. He chanted a healing song and saw the wound starting to heal.